So Alan Rusbridger is former editor-in-chief of The Guardian. He is currently the editor of Prospect magazine, which is a great resource, and of course, chair of the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism at Oxford. Alan, over to you.
Hello, it's good to be here, and I'll pick up on I think where James left off, which is the worst kept secret in the media world, that a lot of publishers and media organizations are facing some financial distress, and people know that, and they can smell weakness, and it's a great moment to move in the expectation that media owners will not be as able to be as robust as they were in the past. And I think I just want to speak about what solidarity looks like in that context. And I think there are two different types of solidarity. So the first is with other publishers. I think media organizations are learning habits of solidarity. I think it comes easier to some than to others, but it's a notoriously competitive field that we're in, and collaborating with others and standing up for others is not always the most natural instinct. But I know that there was a moment when we were working with the New York Times on the Snowden investigation in 2013, when there was a real risk that the British government and the British police would try to either stop what we were doing and or take legal action, including criminal action, against me and the paper. And I have to say that there wasn't a great deal of solidarity in the British press, which I've always put down to the fact that The Guardian had exposed the phone hacking habits of some newspapers, and I think they thought they didn't feel very charitably towards us. But at the moment of the greatest peril, I spent a morning emailing all the editors I could think of around the world who dealt in that kind of reporting, such as national security reporting, and said, we badly need statements of support here. And they were very, very forthcoming. And by the end of the evening, I had about 30 or 40 editors saying how this work was important and right, a natural thing for news organizations to be doing. And we published them all. And I think that became a factor in the British government and maybe the police in thinking, okay, if we do injunct this paper or if we take criminal action against its editor, this is going to create the most almighty smell around the world. So that kind of solidarity matters. The other kind of solidarity, I think, is with readers, and this is more intangible. But the more I think about the trouble that some newspapers are in and some news organizations, I think this relationship with readers is central. I've just been reading for the New York Times, the latest volume of history of the New York Times, and that is an organization which has not been without its troubles in the last 20 years, but has its journalism, I think, is so self-evidently valuable and important to the readers, particularly now, that they have demonstrated that they're willing to support it. We had the same thing in a different way with The Guardian when we had a weekend where all the readers, we invited readers into the building and said, look, at some point, you're going to have to pay for The Guardian in some form. And it was a session moderated by the American academic Clay Shirky, and he said, hands up, everybody who would like to support The Guardian as a private good, i.e., I will pay you for my Guardian, but I wouldn't want anybody else to be reading it. I'd be very upset if somebody was reading it if I was going to give you the money. And almost no hands went up in the audience. And I thought, okay, we're in trouble here. Clay then asked a different question of the audience, was how many people would support The Guardian as a public good, i.e. its journalism would be free to you, to everybody in this room, and to everybody in the world, and all the hands went up. And it took quite a lot, I have to say, to convince The Guardian management that there was something in that idea. And it turns out, however many, that was about 13 years ago. And The Guardian is on a perfectly sustainable footing with contributions from millions of people around the world. And they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't think The Guardian's journalism was worth supporting. And I think the investment that we did in stories like Snowden, in stories like phone hacking, in stories like WikiLeaks, in stories like torture and rendition, in stories like tax avoidance, in stories like undercover policing, and so on, were the reason that readers felt, actually, if you're going to do journalism like that, we will absolutely support you. And as I say, I think that it's an experiment that has now can be shown to work for The Guardian. It wouldn't work for everybody, but the point I draw from that is that we can only face down the threats that we are getting, and I think we will increasingly get, with the support of others. And that can be colleagues and solidarity with other publications, or it can be with the support of readers. And it's so clear now what doesn't work. It's so clear that you can't cut yourself out of the problem. You can't, if you get into the spiral of death, of producing less and less worthwhile journalism, then there is no reason why readers will come to your support. They couldn't care less. And I think we have to face up to the fact that there is a great deal of cynicism about what journalism is, what the craft of journalism represents, and the value of journalism in the world today. But if you go into journalism with the idea that the support of your readers will be crucial at the point that somebody comes for you, I think that is an incredibly valuable thing, because they will. If they think that you're doing something that is important and meaningful and on their side, they will support you. And I think that will also make people in authority pause. It's not a foolproof shield, but I think it would make them pause before taking action. That, at the notice that you gave me, Siddharth, is my 5 pennyworth towards the contribution towards what is, I'm sure, a fascinating and important discussion.
Thanks a lot, Alan. I think solidarity matters, readers matter. I think these are great sort of pointers for all of us and for media across the G20. So I think the experiences that you speak about is something that many newspapers, websites, and TV channels around the world ought to be emulating. And thank you very much for agreeing to be here. And of course, you've complimented what James said about British media, and what it's dealing with really well. Thank you very much.